Hello everyone, I'm MystiC and welcome to MystiC Screenings. At least that's what I think I'm going to call this little show for the time being. Could change in the future, who knows. Basically just a little place to give pretending will be short view on things that I've recently watched. Just to get a little review out there, get opinions out there, inform you all, and maybe convince you to watch something that you wouldn't have otherwise. Today's film in question is the Cloverfield paradox. Now, anyone who actually knows anything about this already knows, of course, about the really interesting ad campaign of let's air our commercial during the Super Bowl and then our movie will be available on Netflix directly after. Certainly creative and something that hasn't been done before, but I feel like actually having a trailer out before the Super Bowl might have gotten them more views, at least on the first night. Then again, I might be grossly underestimating the amount of people who watched the Super Bowl. The movie itself is the third in the Cloverfield series, though, let's be fair, the first two were barely connected to each other at all, other than there just happened to be things called Cloverfield in it. Now, little tangent here, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of this series. I've loved it since 2008. I loved the monster, Clover. I even really enjoyed 10 Cloverfield Lane, despite the random addition of aliens at the end of it. So I went into this with pretty high hopes, because I want more to this series. So, to get kind of into the plot, and I'll try not to give too heavy of spoilers in these reviews, just bear with me. The film takes place in 2028. Earth is suffering from a global energy crisis, or more specifically, just a global oil crisis that has many countries in the world ready to attack each other at a whim, which may be a little too close to home, but we'll pretend it's all fiction. All the collective spacefaring agencies of the world decide we're going to build a giant space station that's secretly a particle accelerator, like you do, and launch it into space to test fire it and try to create clean, renewable, infinite energy for the entire planet. Unfortunately, once they get the thing into space, for the first 2 years, nothing really happens. They try, they fail, no negative repercussions. And in the process, a lot of people on Earth, or some people at least, start to really question this and criticize it, because they fear that activating a giant particle accelerator could create what this movie calls the Cloverfield paradox. Basically rip a hole in space-time, open doorways to other dimensions, let monsters and demons and aliens in. And the best part is, they don't think that this will just affect the present, that it'll also cause these rips in the future and in the past. So the second you hear that, in the first, give or take 10 minutes of the movie, you know things are going to go bad because we've seen Cloverfield. We know that giant monsters and little monsters who bite you and cause an infection that makes your head explode are just a thing that happened. And again, we'll try to ignore the aliens for the time being. The main character we follow on the satellite is named Ava Hamilton, and her actress does an amazing job in this role. In fact, most of the acting is really solid, but I personally feel that if I try to pronounce these wonderful people's names, I will butcher them terribly. So I'll just leave a link to the IMDb if you want to look up to get to know more of these people independently. The only one I actually knew going into this movie, who I didn't expect, was Donald Logue, even though he really only has a glorified cameo to tell us about the Cloverfield paradox. So Ava and the other crew members, who are stereotypes, but they do a good job of not acting like they are, for the most part. They spend 2 years on this station. They finally get the thing working, and then it pretty much blows, shuts down. And when they're able to get up from the shaking explosion and look out the window, the Earth is gone. I will give a little credit here. They check the communications first to see if they can reach Earth. They can't. They check all of their outside cameras to see if they can see Earth. They can't. And then in a blind panic, like I can only imagine people would do, they start running around the ship and looking out all the windows to see if they can find Earth, and they can't. It will later be revealed that they have transported to a different / parallel dimension. And that's pretty much our plot, is them trying to find a way to get home. Which is sci-fi enough, but then the things that happened when they crossed over start to rear their ugly heads. For example, not to give a character away, even though I didn't really describe them, but whatever. One of the characters in the movie just suddenly explodes. Someone freezes solid. One guy's arm just gets eaten by the wall. I mean, there's lots of interesting things that happen. Oh, and there's also a character who they find merged with the wiring in the wall, which is pretty cool. Certainly not an effect I've seen recently, if at all. And then I can say for a lot of the effects in this movie, for the kills, while I'm sure I've seen something really similar to this still felt fresh. And I'm honestly just quite thankful that they didn't go the route of having some xenomorph-like aliens appear on the ship when they teleported realities and start killing off the cast. Now, our B-plot, aside from them trying to get back to the main reality, focuses on Ava's husband, who's a doctor. And once they go to the other dimension, lots of crap starts happening on our Earth, for lack of a better term. And so he's driving to the hospital where he works, and I think it's supposed to be implied that he finds the hospital completely in rubble. It's not very clear. What is clear is through the smoke we see a giant monster walking across the frame, though we don't get a clear look at it. I'm going to choose just to pretend it's Clover, or at least another member of Clover's species. And in the rubble, he finds this little girl named Molly, who I will deviate to say her actress's name is Clover, and I think that's cute and adorable considering. Her uncle died in the collapse. He takes her to a bunker that his friend has, because of course his friend has a bunker, and patches her up, and that's where he spends the rest of the movie, just trying to reach people and figure out what the hell's going on. And that's about what you get. I mean, they do realize at a certain point, through some theory of quantum entanglement I pretend to know nothing about, that firing the particle accelerator again might take them home. And that's their end goal. I will say overall, the last 10 seconds of the movie, unlike a lot of movies nowadays that'll ruin something for me, the very end of this movie made my rating for this movie as a whole exponentially higher, just based on how much I love the series. And I'm going to give nothing away here. If you liked the movies previous to this, definitely at least watch the ending. I mean, I hope you'll watch the movie and support the movie, but unfortunately, it's gotten a lot of negative reviews online. With, I think Rotten Tomatoes has it as an 18%, with an average rating of like 4.5 out of 10. And I don't think that's fair. I mean, the casting is great. They mix several genres together, and the two storylines we're going with aren't really distracting of each other. So I guess for me, as a standalone, I'd give the film a 6 out of 10. As a part of the series, I'd at least go to 7.5. Because it answers a lot of questions without really trying too hard, not hammering it in, that I've had since 2008, when the first Cloverfield was released. But that being said, I can definitely recommend this movie if you're a fan of the series. If you're just a fan of sci-fi movies in general, it's a fun ride. And I can say if it gets a physical release, I will certainly buy it on Blu-ray. Even though I know with Netflix movies, the options of special features are probably going to be near nothing. I'd still like to own a physical copy. But that'll be all for today. Thanks for listening.